Dear students of class 7, welcome to you all. Today I like to discuss the first chapter of history, that is changes through 1,000 years. In the beginning, I will discuss period and periodization. We know that in class 6, I have discussed the period and periodization. History has been divided into three periods: ancient, medieval and modern. Ancient period begins from the Stone Age to the 800 CE. The medieval period begins from 800 CE to 1800 CE, that is history of 1000 years. And modern period, which begins from the 19th century till today. However, each and every period we know that each and every period has its own features or characteristics. Similarly, that is why the historians prefer to periodize history. Ultimately, you see that the medieval period, it is our topic. Medieval period starts from 800 CE and ends in 1800 CE. During this period, we see that a transition took place in India. From regional kingdoms, there were many regional kingdoms which were transformed into big empires or big kingdoms. Now, our next topic is from regions to empires. This period, in medieval period, many small kingdoms were transformed into large empires. After the death of Harshavardhan in 646 CE, many small kingdoms or regional kingdoms emerged in both in North India and South India. In North India, the Palas, Gurjara Pratiharas, Shashankas of Gaur, Devagupta Malwa, Gurja and Kanuj, Gurvarman was the ruler. Similarly, in southern India, Cholas, Chalukyas, Pallavas, Rashtrakutas, these kingdoms emerged. However, the Muslim invasion or Arab invasion began in India in 712 AD. Sultan Mahmud of Ghazni invaded India 17 times. He continued his raid from 1000 to 1227 CE. The Turkish rule began, or Turkish invasion began with the invasion of Muhammad Ghuri. Muhammad Ghuri, we know, invaded India in 1191 and 1192 AD in the first battle and second battle of Tarain, which was fought between Prithviraj Chauhan and him. In the second battle of Tarain, Prithviraj Chauhan was defeated and killed. Thus, with the Turkish invasion of Muhammad Ghuri, the medieval period began, or it marked the beginning of the medieval period. Now, with the coming of Turks and Afghans in the 13th century, a new rule began, that is called Sultanate rule. The Sultans ruled from Delhi. However, we see that gradually we can see that in the 16th century, Babur invaded India and established a new empire called Mughal dynasty. And from Babur to Aurangzeb, the mighty Mughal rulers ruled for many years, and last Mughal empire began to decline from the 18th century CE. Now, I shall discuss the new terms for India. We know that in class 6 I have discussed that ancient Indian subcontinent has been termed as it has been termed as Aryavarta, Dakshinatha, and also Jambudip. Now, with the coming of the Arabs in 712 AD, that is 8th century AD, the term Hind was used. The entire Indian subcontinent was known as Hind. It was actually, we see that Arab traveler Al-Biruni in his book Tahqiq-i-Hind, first used the term Hind, and later we see that the Arabs, besides the Arabs, the Afghans and the Turks call the Indian subcontinent as Hindustan. And you will be surprised to know that Hindustan at that time did not denote the entire country. It includes the area around the Delhi, in and around Delhi. Gradually, we see that, however, during the Sultanate period, we see that the empire also extended further, but still the term Hindustan generally denotes the entire northern India. Whatever it may be, the Babur established the Mughal Empire in the 16th century. Now, 16th century, the Babur actually used the term Hindustan in his book Baburnama. He wanted to mean the geographical condition of India and cultural life of the people. However, this is how from time to time the term Hind or Hindustan has been used by the different historians. Meanwhile, we see, now I can mention the economic changes. Various tribes, various races came to India. They settled here, and with the coming of the various peoples, new technologies were brought in. The introduction of the Persian wheel in irrigation, the spinning wheel in weaving brought new economic changes or economic development. Besides, different types of foods and beverage were introduced in India, namely coffee, tea, potato, corn, chilies, etc. However, now I like to discuss the new regional divisions. Already I have discussed the growth of or emergence of various small kingdoms in both in northern India and in South India, like the Cholas, Chalukyas, Pallavas, Palas, Rashtrakutas, etc. So, and also already I discussed how these regional kingdoms are gradually transformed into large empires during the 13th and 16th centuries. Now, new religious traditions. What are the new religious traditions? We know that during the medieval period, new religious traditions and customs are introduced. During the Sultanate period, two most important religious doctrine was introduced. First one, the Bhakti movement, and secondly, the Sufi cult. They perhaps the Sufi saints came from West Asia and they settled in and around Delhi. And moreover, the Muslim invasion brought the Islamic religion to India, and thus Islam became popular in India. Gradually, Islam became popular in India. We see that in this way, the Bhakti reformers or Sufi saints like Guru Nanak, Mirabai, Namdev, Ramanuj, Mainuddin Chishti, Shah Jalal, Chirag Ali, they gradually introduced new ideas, new religious practices. They taught the people universal religion, concept of universal religion, universal brotherhood, unity of mankind, and love for all. Thus we see these new ideas, new religious customs flourished during the medieval period. Now, major sources. As I have discussed in class 6, the sources are divided into two major groups: archaeological sources and literary sources. Similarly, I may mention the two major sources in medieval period, that is, it was divided into two broad groups: archaeological source and literary source. Archaeological sources include the masjid, temples, mausoleums, forts, palaces and other buildings, coins, inscriptions, while the literary sources include chronicles, biographies, autobiographies, accounts, official records and unofficial records. Now I like to discuss in the beginning archaeological sources. Archaeological sources, first and foremost I may mention the inscriptions. Inscriptions are the most important source of the time. It was issued in the form of royal proclamation, royal order. Inscriptions from South India issued by the South Indian kings in the form of proclamation or gift to the temples or educated persons. Similarly, the coins of the medieval period, an important source of information. We get the economic, we will actually learn from these coins the economic condition of the people, the name of the rulers, the reigning period. And at that time, coins of gold, silver and copper were widely used. The name of the coins were Jital, Tonka and Rupiah. Jital Tonka and Rupiah. So from coins we get great deal of information regarding the medieval period. And we will be surprised to know that Alauddin Khilji wrote a book on coins, Darya Pariksha. Now I like to mention the name of the sources. Monuments. Monuments are the most important sources. It includes temples, mosque, mausoleum, etc. From 8th to 13th century, many temples were built in India. It was built by the regional rulers like the Cholas, Pallavas, Chalukyas, Rashtrakutas, Gurjara Pratiharas, Rajput rulers, etc. I will mention the name of the Kailasnath temple of Ellora, built by Rashtrakuta ruler Krishna I. Similarly, the Vijayanagar kingdom, which was built in South India, which flourished in South India. It also see that we have brought the ruins of this capital called Hampi. Similarly, the Bittul Swami temple and many other similar temples were built during these times. I may mention during the period, that is the Sultanate period, many important palaces, many important masjids were built. Namely, I may mention the name of Qutub Minar. Qutub Minar was built by Qutubuddin Aibak. It was started by him and completed by Iltutmish. Similarly, Alai Darwaja, it was built by Alauddin Khalji. And the prolific Mughals were prolific builders. I may mention the name of Shah Jahan, Akbar and Shah Jahan. During their times, it is said that it was a golden period of art and architecture. A new type of architectural style was introduced in India. It is called Indo-Islamic architecture, or Indo-Persian style. We see that the Taj Mahal, one of the greatest mausoleum, which was built by Shah Jahan in the memory of his beloved wife Mumtaz Mahal. Similarly, the Jami Masjid, Diwani Am, Diwani Khas, Mati Masjid, etc. Similarly, I may mention the Red Fort built by Akbar and several other important palaces and forts. I can mention the name of the Chitor Fort in Rajputana, and many other similar forts were built in southern and northern India. So, from these monuments, mausoleums, we learned the history of art and architecture, and moreover, I may mention different types of paintings also developed at that time. That is called Kangnai School of Painting, Rajput School of Painting, Pahari School of Painting, etc. Now, literature, literary sources. Literary sources in the form of early literature, I may mention the name of chronicles. The first name, the important of chronicles, we must know what is chronicle. Chronicle is an official document or official record of a dynasty or dynasties. We have the greatest example of chronicles or court chronicles is the Ras Tarangini, written by Kashmiri poet Kalhana. Ras Tarangini, the history of Kashmir from the earliest times, from ancient time to the 12th century CE. Another important was we mentioned the Tahqiq-i-Hind, written by Arab traveler Al-Biruni. From Tahqiq-i-Hind, we can know about the Indian people, about the religious customs, traditions, practices, food habits, etc. Another important source, Prithviraj Rasa's Chand Bardai. I should correct it. Chand Bardai is Prithviraj Rasa. Chand Bardai was the poet. He wrote the book Prithviraj Rasa. You know that the Prithviraj was a brave king who was actually killed by Muhammad Ghori, and in this book Chand Bardai described the bravery and courage of Prithviraj Chauhan. I may mention the name, many books were written during the Sultanate period. Namely, it is I may mention similarly, Tariq-i-Firuz Shahi, written by Ziauddin Barni, and Fatwa-i-Jahandari. Tariq-i-Firuz Shahi, Fatwa-i-Jahandari, written by Ziauddin Barni. It describes the history of Delhi up to Firoz Shah Tughlaq and Sultanate administration. Similarly, another book, Minhaj al-Siraj, written by another historian, Minhaj al-Siraj, wrote Tabaqat-i-Nasiri, Tabaqat-i-Nasiri. Similarly, some similar other books were written by Amir Khosrow and Isami, historian. So, another important time when many historical books, biographies, autobiographies were written, that is the Mughal period. In the 16th century, Babur, who was the founder of the Mughal Empire, wrote himself autobiography called Tujuk-i-Babari or Babur-Nama. And it is Humayun-Nama written by Humayun's sister Gulbadan Begum. Akbar-Nama, a famous book, was written by Abul Fazl. So, many other similar books, Aini-Akbari, Akbar-Nama, was written during this time. So, this is how we see that moreover, many official records, documents, unofficial records, and also Farman, that is royal order. For example, Farrukhsiyar issued Farman in 1717, Jahangir issued Farman in 1516, etc. Also, I should have mentioned earlier, a large number of travelers also came to India. They left valuable information, or they actually wrote book and left valuable information about the medieval period. Namely, Sir Thomas Roe, Ibn Battuta, who came during the time of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, during the Sultanate period. Ibn Battuta wrote a book called Kitabus Rahela. So, in this way, the traveller's account also left a valuable information on medieval period. So, thus, we see that these historical sources play an important role. It helps us to reconstruct history, and thus we can learn many things about the medieval period. So, thank you all.